Buddy, Buddy, he loves boozing. Buddy, Buddy, he loves boozing.
Buddy, what the... How many more intros are we going to do with you boozing?
What more do we need? Comedy needs no story. It's all about the situation.
Maybe. But if we do one joke 100 times, it might get boring.
Buddy, Buddy, he loves boozing.
Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage.
And I'm Deniz, the Buddymeister.
We have reviewed more than 400 Indian movies on the channel, and today's one was once again picked for us by one of our awesome Masala tier supporters. Binoy Mohammed has chosen the 1985 Malayalam romantic comedy Boeing Boeing. If you want to pick a movie for us, head over to patreon.com/thejimmycage.
Boeing Boeing was written by Srinivasan and Priyadarshan and directed by Priyadarshan. It stars Mohanlal, Mukesh, Jagati Srikumar, and Lizzie, Madhuri, and Ashwini. The movie is a remake of the 1965 John Rich directed Boeing Boeing starring Tony Curtis and Jerry Lewis. But both of them are based on a French play called Boeing Boeing that was written by Marc Camoletti in 1960.
The plot's always the same. In our case, Shyam, played by Mohanlal, is dating 3 flight attendants at the same time. What starts as laid-back dating becomes more and more complicated as Shyam's friend Anil gets wind of the situation and wants in on it. And because of the constantly changing flight time schedules of the 3 women, soon everything gets out of hand. Buddymeister, what did you think of Boeing Boeing?
Listen, we've seen quite a few Priyadarshan movies by now. We've also seen a few movies that were either written by Srinivasan or starring him or starring Mohanlal and Jagati Srikumar or all the other guys. We just recently talked about Maya Peunu Malayalam Kotunu, which we really liked. Boeing Boeing though, I think it's my least favorite classic Malayalam comedy so far.
Yeah, unfortunately I must agree. It's not like that it's not fun at times, but it's just way too long, too repetitive, quite taxing, and just not creative enough to maintain a steady amount of energy. There are glimpses of comedy magic in there, but it's buried under a lot of stuff that either didn't work for us because of the cultural barrier, because it didn't age that well, or because it's simply too much.
Yeah, we keep reading about movies being regarded as the best film or regarded as one of the greatest comedies in Malayalam cinema. And I don't know who these people are that do the regarding, but apparently Boeing Boeing is regarded as one of the best comedy films in Malayalam cinema. And it's of course totally alright if you think that. But the first thing that I always think after reading something like that is, did I miss something? Did I totally not get this movie? Because just like you, I don't think that Boeing Boeing is very good.
I don't have any doubts whatsoever that this movie must have been a total laugh riot in theaters in Kerala when it was first released. But watching it so many years later and as outsiders, it just didn't work all the way through. But first things first. What we have here is a classic, let's call it revolving door comedy, mixed with a comedy of errors. We both haven't watched the original from 1965 and we also haven't seen any kind of theater production of the play, but we are of course familiar with comedies of that kind.
Yeah, with Boeing Boeing, it actually takes about 20 minutes till we get to the trials and tribulations of Shyam, Anil and the 3 flight attendants. There's some banter before that with Shyam, who works as a photographer, and his co-workers and friends Olasa and Lambodaran, and his boss Damodaran, played by Shankaradi. And there's this great scene where Shyam tries to cook a chicken masala with instructions from the radio, but his buddy turns the radio off and the TV on, and Shyam does his best in understanding what the hell he's supposed to do.
I think that's the first time where we hear that musical motif that turns up almost every minute from that point on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I actually enjoyed the whole beginning of the movie quite a bit. In these old Malayalam movies, it can take a while for the real story to get going, but I thought this long introduction segment set the right tone, and I also think that the comedy is a bit more varied. Though at first it wasn't all that easy to completely follow the plan that Shyam and his friends have with the flight attendants and all the dating. I mean, it's a pretty simple plan, and yet it's edited and directed in a slightly confusing way, or maybe it's also just because of the language barrier. But as soon as we got the hang of it, it's actually pretty nifty. All the dates are intercut, and the song Tulu Kai Kopi is also a mix of all that. Besides the obvious way of using 3 different colors that represent the 3 women.
Something that's not important at all. It's never picked up again, and the 3 women, Elena, Padma and Indu, are really not the focus of this movie. It's actually 4 women because, believe it or not, Shyam is already engaged to Srikuti. The female characters aren't fleshed out or anything. They have no personality. They are in this movie for the entanglements and the confusion. And that's fine. But I think Boeing Boeing would have actually benefited if each one of them had a distinct personality or character that could add to the comedy.
But to be honest, Shyam and Anil also lack personality, or something we can hold on to. Of course, you don't need that for every kind of comedy, but that only works if the things that the characters do are funny. You need to laugh your ass off because of the crazy situations, the quirkiness of the characters, the odd moments, or because the world is so surreal that anything is possible at any given moment. If that's the case, you don't really need profound characters. Boeing Boeing is lacking those characters, but it's also lacking the craziness and the quirkiness. There's certainly some of it in there, but it's mostly a never-ending sequence of scenes in which characters are talking and scheming and trying to do what they want. And it's a little bit exhausting, and not understanding the language and being dependent on the subtitles isn't helping either.
Yeah, and what's even worse is that Shyam, Anil, Olasa and Lambodaran are actually kind of unsympathetic.
Yeah, they are not the most likable characters, but it's also not fun enough to see them get in precarious situations. Now, we're not saying that Boeing Boeing didn't make us laugh. It has its moments. In principle, all the stuff with the women and the way Shyam tries to accommodate all of them, also with the help of the slightly questionable character Dig Amai, can be quite fun. But this joke really wears out its welcome, especially when you're doing it for 150 minutes.
Absolutely. There are other bits in this movie that function as kind of a blueprint for a new series of jokes, like for example, when Shyam is in search for a father he can introduce to his women, or when Dig Amayi packs her bags and wants to leave. And these jokes are also stretched out and repeated in a way that's just not that funny, or that makes it less funny.
Again, I'm pretty sure it was a laugh riot back then, but for me personally, it can be funny at times, but it also can be annoying or frustrating. Another huge issue in that regard is that there are absolutely no stakes at all in this movie. Of course, you are asking yourself how Shyam and Anil are going to get out of the situation, but at the same time, you don't really care too much. And with that climax, which isn't really a climax, it seems as if Priyadarshan also didn't care that much.
Yeah, it's lazy writing, and it comes across as this assembly line movie that people will love no matter what. I mean, we know endings like that by now. We've seen them so many times, but that doesn't make this one any better. Especially because Shyam didn't really deserve that ending. Srikuti should have told him to go himself at that point.
She should have. One could always say that we didn't understand the movie, but like you said at the beginning, we've seen quite a lot of Malayalam comedies by now, some of them even directed by Priyadarshan, and we really liked them, for whatever reason.
Yeah, but this is not one of them.
It's not. The premise just doesn't have enough substance for a 150-minute movie.
Yeah, and the comedic timing is also not really on point here. I mean, there are probably a lot of linguistic puns in this movie that we didn't get, naturally, but the slapstick stuff is also not working that well. I'm not saying that it's not working at all, but it's not working that well. I think the monotony of the environment, the settings, and the rather stale direction also play a part in that.
Definitely. Though I did find that big brawl between our 2 leads quite charming, where they are fighting and once a woman is entering the room, they pretend to do something completely different. That was a fun scene. But I think that's all for today. What would we say in German about Boeing Boeing?
Boeing Boeing hat seine Momente. Alles in allem ist er aber einfach viel zu lang und monoton und wird dadurch mit der Zeit leider auch eher anstrengend und frustrierend.
I give Boeing Boeing 5 out of 10. It's more like 5.4, but I don't do that.
For me, it's also 5 out of 10. It's more like 5.2, but I don't do that either. Did you know that depending on the airline, flight attendants are only paid from the moment the cabin door closes? Some even only for the time the plane is up in the air.
What? Didn't know that. What are your thoughts about Boeing Boeing? Leave a comment. You can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and also on Patreon, simply at the Jimmy Cage.
And you can hit me up on Twitter at the Buddymeister.
And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like.
And make sure you hit that bell for all we have to tell.